What's up guys, it's Rowan here from Smart TV, and it can be really easy as you go through year 12 to get to your trials and to honestly not do as well as you would like. You know, the trials are notoriously difficult. It's the first time in year 12 you're being examined on everything, and then schools often mark really hard as well. And so if you don't do so well, it can often be really disheartening. It can be hard to find the motivation then to push on, to continue to work for your external HSC exams. And so in today's episode, I'm sitting down and chatting with Chloe. Now, Chloe had an experience for HSC English where in her trials, she scored a 67%. Now, clearly, a mark that, probably will cause anyone to sort of freak out and get a little worried about their overall HSC. But in a very short period of time between trials and her HSC, Chloe ended up achieving an overall mark of 80% in her HSC for English, which was a 13% turn in a short period of time. And so in today's episode, we're going to be diving in and finding out from Chloe, how she felt when she got that mark, how she managed to stay motivated and push through that disappointment, and then the specific strategies that she took to turn things around for her final HSC exam. So welcome, Chloe.
Hi.
What happened with that trial? You got 67% for English. What level of English were you doing?
Standard.
You're doing standard English. How did you feel when you got that mark back?
I was really upset because I had a lot of expectations because I was doing well in year 11 and then I don't know, before trials I was just not feeling motivated, and then I don't know what
It just didn't go right.
Yeah.
So looking back, do you think that you did the work and didn't get the results?
Yeah, definitely. I put in a lot of effort, but it didn't show in the results.
And so when you got those results back, what was the feeling? Did you just want to quit? What was going through your mind?
Yeah, I just was so discouraged. I just wanted to quit. I was I put in so much effort and this is what I got, yeah.
And that's so frustrating, isn't it? Because I think if you almost did no work and got a poor result, you're like, well...
Yeah.
But it's when you work hard and the results don't come that it can be so disheartening. So obviously you didn't quit. Somehow you managed to push through. I know so many other students are in a similar boat when they get their trials back. What did you do to sort of readjust and to sort of find some motivation and get over that discouragement?
Well, I spoke to Jess and
so just for clarity for everyone, Jess was your Smart tutor who was supporting you with English and history.
Yeah.
So you got in touch with her.
I sent her the feedback and I just told her how I was feeling, and she said, look, it's normal, everyone doesn't do too well in trials, but it's really the time to bounce back and do well in the HSC. And so she gave me some really good tips. I think I didn't really analyze my essays. I just skipped over that, or didn't go into that much depth. Yeah, she said the examples, because I tried to do 10, I think, quotes and examples, and she said they were good, just needed to go in depth with the analysis. Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, and also another thing, sorry, I'm just remembering now, with the short answers, I was really bad at that. And from the time from trials, after trials to the HSC, I just got a booklet and was doing them every day.
So a couple of steps here that I just want to unpack a little bit. The first thing is, it sounds like you got a bit of perspective. So what Jess helped with was the perspective of, look, trials are hard, no one does particularly well.
Yeah.
And actually, instead of feeling like this isn't fixable, the feedback that she identified helped you feel okay, there are some clear things here that if I fix, I can do well.
Yeah.
Instead of just staring into the unknown of, I don't know what to change and this isn't working. So it sounds like that helped get a little bit of all right, I have a bit of a plan. And now for that plan, it sounds like step one in that plan was work on the short answers.
Yeah.
Given that was a weak area. So now you got a book. Now I'm mindful though that this was a relatively new syllabus. There's not a whole lot of unseen sort of short answer questions floating around the internet. Yeah. How did you get that book or put it together so that you could work on these practice questions?
Actually, my English teacher got it from all like the trials from like 2019 and 2020 as well. So they were like the two new syllabus.
Great, and so that would be the advice then. If you're not so great at that, fine, there are trial papers if there's not actual HSC.
Yeah.
So what we're then looking at is okay, trials haven't done well, two key weaknesses here. So you've identified some weak areas, have been unseen short answers and the analysis in your essays.
Yeah.
So step one was concerted practice. You said you were doing what? How many practice questions on the short answers did you think you ended up doing?
Oh, like 2, 3 per week.
Okay, so it was then, all right, I've got like a couple of months.
Yeah.
Let's put a plan in, let's do a couple every week. Now, when you were writing them, what were you doing with them? Were you just going, great, they're awesome, or were you getting them marked?
I was sending them to Jess and she was marking them for me.
Okay, so she was giving you feedback.
Yeah.
And then once you got that feedback, so Jess would write up, okay, like good work here, or more analysis needed here, or answer the question here. What would you then do with that?
Use that for the next one that I would do the next week.
Okay, so you would then have that feedback like literally in front of you as you were working on the next one?
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. So then as you were doing that, did you see an improvement over the course of that?
Yeah, definitely. And even Jess said that I've had improved my unseen text.
Okay, amazing. So that was part one, unseen text. And so there's nothing fancy there. I mean, for students that are, maybe disillusioned and discouraged by maybe their trial results, like none of what you've just shared is complex. Yeah, there's some hard work that needed to happen, but really it's just like, okay, yup, this is a known quantity. I've got to practice this. Now, as part of that, before we sort of move on to the essay writing component of the journey, one of the things I know that students can often struggle with the short answers is really both example and sort of technique identification. Like you've got to get in pretty quickly. Yeah. You've got to read a text, a couple of them, right? And then you've got these questions and you've got to go back to the text and be able to find stuff. Like, how did you get better at that?
I had like techniques in my head that I was ready to find. So the easy simile, I was like, okay, yep, that's easy, like a simile. And so I got a highlighter and would go through. Cool,
so it was almost like you had a bank of some go-to techniques ready to go that you knew were fairly common, that you could expect to see based on the different text types, if it was a visual or something else, that you would sort of look for intentionally within the text to help there. How did you then sort of just improve the sort of analysis part? Because obviously that's something we're going to talk about when it comes to your essay writing journey as well. But for those short answers, what did you do there?
I would look at the question and find the key terms in the question and then trying to put that in my analysis. Yeah. So
cool.
It took a lot of practice because I didn't get it in the first time, but yeah, in the end
In other words, being a little more strategic as well okay, there's actually a process on how I should respond to this question. And there's some key things. And so it sounds like pre-trials, you didn't know how to do that.
Yeah, not at all.
And then trials was really the catalyst for learning how. So the second thing that you shared is maybe one of the challenges that you had in your trials that contributed to the marks was your analysis in your essays. Yeah. So what did you then do over the course of a couple of months between trials and HSC to improve the quality of your essays?
So I kept writing essays and sending them to Jess, and she kept giving me feedback. And with each module, I would break down the storyline of the text and find the key areas, I guess. And then by the end of it, I had a really good sentence that I'd keep going back to within my essays.
Cool. So what you didn't do was write one essay, perfect it, memorize it, and then go in, okay? Which I think definitely for new syllabus is particularly not recommended because of the scope of the questions you could get. So what it appears that you did, and correct me if I'm wrong, is you would take a new question. You would write, let's say it was module A or the common module, text and human experience, you would write an essay to it. And you would be using some phrases or some examples that you had already predefined, is that correct? Yeah. And then you would be working to learn how to adapt that and write analysis specific to the question.
Yeah. So before I started writing the essay, I would break it down with Jess, do an essay plan, a 5-minute essay plan. With the key terms in the question, and that really set me up for the essay.
Okay. And so then though, what notes were you using to, because you mentioned, you were getting those sentences more so rather than, what sort of notes did you have that you were then utilizing to help you write these essays?
Yeah, so like class notes, study notes, I'd like put them together, or like some textbooks, and yeah.
And so this was open book when you were doing these practice responses?
Yeah.
So you weren't, just not looking at any of your notes and trying to do it without, without any sort of input. And so you did that and then you'd get it marked?
Yeah.
Is that correct, by Jess? And then would you go back and improve it?
Yeah.
So there was a feedback loop on it?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So then you improved the essay. Once it was improved, you then didn't memorize it.
No.
So you popped it, in your set of notes, I'm assuming? And then did that become then, if you were doing another question on that module, something that you would reference for the next question that you were doing?
Say I was like using the same quote, I'd go back and like see the technique I'd use for that, and not like copy the analysis, but just like see what it
Use it for
says.
inspiration.
Yeah.
And then how many essays do you reckon you were doing like that between trials and HSC?
I was doing a lot, I think 2 per week or something like
Okay, and is that per module or overall for English?
overall.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but that's what, if it's 2 per week, you might have written, let's say there's 10 weeks, depending when your trials ended, right? It might be a little more, a little less, but so that's at least 20 practice responses that you did, that you wrote, you got marked, and you came back and improved, which is really impressive. Now, what did you do then in the couple of days before the HSC exams itself in preparing for English?
I wrote a lot of palm cards with like my quotes and like examples and analysis on the back. So I was just like going over that, and like even in the morning of the HSC exam, I was just like memorizing, like going over that.
And so that was making sure that you had your examples and your techniques ready to go. And then by that point you would, because you'd done it that much practice, it sounds like you were pretty confident at being able to write the analysis that you needed on the fly. Did you do any practice in timed conditions where you sort of close to the exams, you had a timer on?
Yeah, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them were in timed conditions.
So open book, but with a 40-minute or a 45-minute sort of clock ticking down.
40-minute.
Yeah, okay, amazing. So Mod C is often, I think, considered as well to be one of the challenging areas, because the essays you can sort of prep for, yes, you're not going to rote memorize, but you might do all of those practice responses in time conditions and so forth. Mod C, you could get anything. They could ask for you to do an imaginative, discursive, or persuasive. You did imaginative. Now, how did you prepare for that?
Jess actually gave me the online like Art of Smart booklet with like each step of how to write an imaginative, and so that really helped. And so in tutoring with Jess, like we'd create like a plan, and then like in my own time I'd like go and write an imaginative.
Okay. And then she would give you feedback on it. And how many imaginatives did you focus more on the imaginative in the hope that that's what you would be asked? How many do you reckon you wrote for practice?
Like 3 or 4.
And then did you memorize one, or did you just go in and write one on the day based on what you were given?
I just like went in and wrote one on the day.
Yeah, wow. So again, it sounds like the focus was about building the skill of how do I write a great imaginative, what are the components of that, and practice writing it. And then if you got lucky and the question was relevant, you had 3 or 4 that you could draw on for inspiration, but if not, you at least knew structurally how to write a great response. Just reflecting a little bit on the work that you're doing with Jess for English specifically, I mean, what were some of the best things about working with Jess for English?
She gave me a lot of like tips. Like one thing she said was to have like a rest day, and that was like that helped significantly. Like on the Sunday, like I wouldn't do any work. I wouldn't pick up a textbook, because like the whole week, like you're just like at school, like Friday night, Saturday, you're just doing work, and that rest day really helped for like Monday.
And so that's not even about English, which I guess is a core part of what we try to do in terms of a more holistic approach at Art of Smart. So that's great. In other words, it was something that it sounds like it had a flow-on effect across all your subjects because you were in a better state of mind for the week ahead. I suppose a final question on your journey with English, right? What would you say to other students that maybe get to trials like you and just don't do very well? What advice would you have for them in sort of turning things around?
I would say like this isn't the end. Like this isn't the mark that determines like who you are, I guess. Like you can always like pick yourself up and do better. Like I don't know, like just keep going, don't give up.